Okay, hi and assalamualaikum. My name is Munadena. My team member is Hawa Naila, Alia Atirah, Muhammad Zaim, and also Maizatu Aisyah. Okay, first I want to introduce about the issues and challenges in conducting an effective interview process. Among the most important during job recruiting exercise, it is important that every step is taken carefully to ensure objectivity, high standard are applied. However, in many instances, human resource managers make various mistakes which may lead to loss of valuable employee or inclusion into the workforce of the during interview process, and needs to be identified and addressed accordingly.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Hawa Naila binti Muhammad Ramlan. I will present the problem at the interview process. Okay, for first point is the timing. Someone that has gone through 5 back-to-back interviews will perform differently than someone who had a break. And because multiple candidates are involved at a different times of the day or on different day, it makes accurately comparing interview results that occur at different times or days difficult. For the second point is interviews are held in person. Advance in technology now make it possible to have inexpensive live video interviewers over the internet. Live video interviews and telephone preliminary interviews can save both travel costs and candidate time without impacting quality. Okay, for the third point is panel interviews. Panel or group interviews are often intimidating because of the number of people in the room hurling question after question at a single interview. Candidates can also become frustrated when the wrong person asks a question. For example, when an HR person asks a technical question and a technical manager asks a question that should have been asked by the HR. Lastly is skill demonstrated in the interview are not required for this job. There's some job like receptionist, salesperson, and recruiter lend themselves to being assessed through interviews, while some other jobs like programs, artists, and meter readers. Interviews may be horrible predictors of the candidates on the job success because they work alone.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Maizatu Aisyah binti Din. Today, I would like to discuss about the problem of issues and challenges in conducting an effective interview process. The first is general inconsistency. We know it's pretty easy to accidentally allow interview inconsistencies to filter into the process. From scheduling interviews at different times of the day to entering the room in a bad mood due to a personal issue, we are only human and even the smallest of things can affect our judgment, but consistency is absolutely crucial to a strong, successful interview process. What is the solution of this problem of general inconsistency? There are a few ways to avoid this kind of issue. First, put a scoring system in place which will assess everyone fairly based on your expectation of the successful candidate. Number two, make sure the same person interviews every candidate at each stage of the process. Number three, leave any personal feelings at the door. Take some time between interviews to take breaks, relax, and rid yourself of any negative emotion. And lastly, schedule interviews close together, ideally and the same day, so that approach and mood remain very regular. Next point of problem is snap judgment. Okay, within seconds of meeting someone, we make a decision on a variety of things, including whether we like them or not. As an interviewer, they must push this initial snap judgment to the back of candidates' mind. The solution of this problem is try not to let your initial judgment taint of the process. First, put yourself in your candidate's shoes. They are bound to be uber nervous, so if they do make a mistake, give them the benefit of the doubt. Number two, bring someone into the interview with you. It could be that your unconscious biases are causing you to make snap decisions. If you do give a chance and they fail to impress throughout the entire interview, then at least you can say you tried. And the last point of this issue problem is inappropriate questions. You must never ever ask questions or make comments that could even remotely be perceived as discriminatory, no matter how much get on with candidates. Such topics could easily offend and have serious legal implication, which mean not to mention the damage it could have on your company reputation. The solution of this problem issue of inappropriate questions, interviewers should ask better questions so it can make a real effort to ease the candidate into the interview before bombards them with a bunch of difficult questions. Also remember, stress interviews will not work you're nervous, shy, or confident. Lacking candidate, but that doesn't necessarily mean they are not right for the job. It's really important to ask some fresher and more challenging questions, as well as the bar necessities like what's your greatest weakness? And the last is also remember, do not attempt to discuss any of the following, such as age, sexual orientation, marital status, cultural issue, and illness. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, the first problem is lack of follow-up. The manager find the perfect candidate. The first stage interview goes brilliantly, but they don't follow up. They fail to follow up promptly enough. That means the candidate can feel insecure, unsure, and unloved to work there. When the candidates feel like that, so they 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 will move to apply other job and invariably accept an offer somewhere else. So the manager, the solution of the problem is the manager must tell the candidates why they were chosen in their company, and let the candidates know as soon as possible when you decide to hire them. Manager must show the candidates that the manager love them and they are much more likely to wait around for you and can wait to hire the candidate's work. The manager don't take long time to make decision in the first place.
Okay, hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Munadena. Okay, the first problem is asking the wrong questions. Job interview can often follow a formula approach, which means that candidates often face the same questions. This is especially true with experienced recruiters who often feel confident enough in their interview skills to simply win the interviews and consequently use the same try and test questions time and again. And this is not the right approach. Okay, for the solution is the interviewer must asking the question carefully, because every interview should be tailored to the position, and a series of questions that relate specifically to that position should be drawn out in advance. additional aptitude or psychometric tests can also form part of the process should the role require them, and that in turn might give you a new areas to questions. Okay, the second problem is interviewer bias occurs when someone makes a preconceived notion about an interviewee that clouds their judgment and makes the interview less objective overall. Unconscious bias in interviewing is not only unfair and discriminatory, but also leads to making poor hiring decisions and high turnover rates. And the solution the interviewer bias is by teaching recruiters and everyone else responsible for recruiting about hiring bias. You will draw attention to acknowledge when they are doing it, why they are doing it, and more importantly, how they can alter their behavior so they are no longer based on their decision on their biases. Okay, the third problem is lack of preparation. Preparation is key to any interview. A lack of preparation gives you a major disadvantage over other candidates and will cost you a job before you have even walked in the door. Okay, for the solution is be prepared. For the example is research the company before you attend a job interview. It's important to find out as much as you can about not only the job but about also the company. Okay, second example is practice in interviewing. Take the time to practice answering interview questions, and this also calm your nervous because you will not be scrambling for an answer while you are in the middle of the interview.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name Muhammad Zaim bin Muhammad Sabri. Today I want to explain about problem and solution at interview. Okay, the first point is come late time interview. Okay, first when you arrive, apologies and saying I am sorry, this is not ordinarily how I conduct myself, and then let it go. Starting off with please is not a good way to set a tone. Say in mind that if things go well, this is the person you will either be working for, or so keep the conversation positive and professional. Give him or her a chance to get to know you, particularly your strengths, such as how you can overcome a challenge like an unexpected detect on the way, and it's important in meeting. Owning up to your shortcoming means being aware that blaming others is not going to make you look good. They said blaming other people for we for your late arrival can come across as defensive. We don't care why you are late. You were late, they said. Don't make an excuse for it. Let all good apologize. Apologizing for being late means taking responsibility for your action. If you blame another person for it, it becomes a weaker excuse. Hartman said this a dry run, but it was not during rush hour, and traffic was a lot worse than I expected. That is good answer. But the older woman in front of me was driving slow. That's like, well, you should left earlier. They recall a job candidate who tried blaming them for sending the wrong address and getting her lost. She lied about something stupid and very veritable. They said this told us the interviewing panel that she was not prepared and that she would shame order to her lack of planning. The candidate did not get the job if you know you are going to be 30 minutes late. They recommend calling the interviewing teams rather than texting or emailing. Reach out and talk about the person to ensure that your message was received and they can hear me sincerity about apology much better than suggestions. And for the second point is interview fatigue. Interview fatigue is a very real problem and something you need to be aware of them. Interview fatigue is a very real problem and something you need to be aware of when you were considering being consistent with your interview approach. For example, imagine you were set aside a whole day for interviewing a candidate which is on the only way to deal with his appointment logistically. The potentially means that candidate chance at your company's future could literally depend of the luck of the draw. Eventually, that has to go against you when people listen to broadly similar many times in a day. It's only natural to switch off at some point and stop listening. So if you are in charge of the interview process, then schedule regular break and if possible limit the number of interview in one day to no more than 3. Interview fatigue apply to candidates too, so unless physical and mental disorder are actually part of the then try to avoid full day evaluation, then emotional stress will start to affect your result. Okay, that's all from me and thank you.
Firstly is I have observed in my studies that a general failing of interview is their inability to document just what occurred in a talk in their usual, often premeditated hurry to get their next interview. They neglect valuable notes. This impatience is, in many cases, is merely behavior resulting from a self-satisfying need to prove to themselves that they are busy. Adequate notations of these significant events, impressions, and agreed on informations are of great value in reconstructing the interview at a later date and in providing a framework for a planning by the next season.